Previously on Book Swap. In December 2022, Taté and I collaborated on our first book swap. The first book we read was one I chose, Michael Baisden's Men Cry in the Dark. I chose this book because several reviews described it as a men's version of Waiting to Exhale. I was sitting here searching high and low, trying to find a book to put on for Black men that was not about trauma. They was all like, oh, it's Waiting to Exhale for men, right? And I'm like, well, I saw the movie. I ain't read the book, but I heard the movie was like the book, so I know I committed a sin, but still. Men Cry in the Dark unfortunately did not meet our expectations. He got it too.
Yeah. This book is a 0.
I wanted this book to win.
Let me tell you what he got.
It let me down.
A lot of this book gave podcasts to me. There is no character development. There's not really a plot. There's nothing happening. Everything is this. And every time you think it's gone, it don't.
This started my search to find a male version of Waiting to Exhale that would meet our expectations. In March 2023, I decided for my next turn to read Waiting to Exhale. We both had only seen the movie at that point, and I wanted to know if maybe Men Cry in the Dark had actually been more of a match to the book than the movie. I also wanted to know what to use as a criteria for future searches. However, we went into it with some reservations.
I got it the first time because I loved the movie. So I was like, let me read the book. So I got How Stella Got Her Groove Back, and I got that one. I think I read How Stella Got Her Groove Back first because I had watched the movie. That was the movie I had watched most recently. And I was like, I'm not reading this book. After I got How Stella Got Her Groove Back, I'm like, I'm not reading another Terry book. I'm not sitting through it. So I got rid of it. And Rhonda was like, hey girl, hey. Guess what we doing?
Waiting to Exhale far exceeded our expectations, but it also further deepened our disappointment in Men Cry in the Dark.
I'm glad he made us read this because I'm glad I bought the second book. Terry did her thing. She did her thing. She said y'all are gonna read the second book. Every movie I drop, y'all are gonna watch it. I'm gonna give y'all the blueprint. And then I'm gonna watch y'all fail at trying to recreate it. I'm gonna give you the blueprint and I'm gonna watch you fail at trying to recreate it because you're not doing it your way. You gotta do stuff your way.
This is the big sister, and this is the little brother trying to ride big sister's coattails.
They were just throwing that on anything. They said, yep, stamp. We want the book to sell, stamp. Yep, it's by a Black man. It's Waiting to Exhale for men. Y'all don't understand how disrespectful this is to this woman. The whole reason that you read Men Cry in the Dark is because y'all told me it was gonna be this.
Story-wise, this man failed in every aspect, whereas Terry succeeded in every aspect.
Y'all give her respect.
No, because
I apologize and give her respect because this book deserves so many accolades.
In July 2023, my next attempt in my quest would turn out to be Before I Let Go. As I'm reading the cover, I see on it, this is Waiting to Exhale of the 2000s. So I'm like, hey Tati, guess what I found? Before I Let Go turned out to be an enjoyable book, but it still missed the mark on what I picked it for. And that caused me to ask myself the question, is there and will there ever be a male version of Waiting to Exhale? After reading Men Cry in the Dark and Before I Let Go, I don't think so. And this video will explain why I'm no longer looking for one. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so like I said, we're doing a part 2, right? So today we're going to be talking about Before I Let Go, and we're going to find out where it stands when it comes to these two books. Let's talk about these books in relation to Waiting to Exhale. I feel like we're not going to have a lot to say on this, because I feel like everything we could really say, we said last time when we talked about them two books. Like, how do you feel this stacked up against Waiting to Exhale?
Okay, y'all can see the rankings, and I'll redo my rankings so y'all see how it stacks up. Waiting to Exhale is a 5 for me, period. 5, great book. Before I Let Go, a 3-ish. Again, I think it kind of moved up to the 4 range, but it's 3 to 4. Men Cry in the Dark is still a 0. It was a 0 then, it's a 0 now, okay?
Waiting to Exhale and Before I Let Go, both were a 4. Men Cry in the Dark was a 2.
When I talk about the books in relation to Waiting to Exhale, I definitely feel like Before I Let Go did what Man in the Cry in the Dark was supposed to do. Before I Let Go is a standalone book. He is not trying to be the male Waiting to Exhale. Okay. What he is trying to do is create a book that is talking about brotherhood and navigating relationships and life through brotherhood, which is the same thing that basically Waiting to Exhale is for women. It is women navigating love, heartbreak, and just life within like a sisterhood. So that's why this book to me can compare, and why it is more equally equivalent to being the male version, because it's not the same. They don't have the same problems. They don't talk about the same things. Like you could kind of match the characters up, but not really. Like you could tell that he wasn't purposely trying to create this book. What he was purposely trying to do is create a book by a man for a Black man that talks about brotherhood, that talks about relationships, that talks about being a player and how that can affect people, and that also gives you a positive representation of Black men who make money, who can do certain things. Did some women not like the Before I Let Go? Do I think the men hated women? Maybe Nate. No, I'm playing. I don't think the men hated women. Did they have some negative relationships and some negative feelings towards women? Yes. But I don't think they hated Black women. Same with Waiting to Exhale. I don't think Waiting to Exhale, they hated Black men. They had some quarrels and some things they didn't like about them, but I feel like it was less about Black men specifically and just about men in general. Like they just didn't like this about men in general. And I feel the same way about Before I Let Go. It wasn't about Black women specifically. It was, if they disliked something about women, it was women as general. Or if they treated women bad, it was women in general for the most part. With Men Cry in the Dark, I genuinely feel like they hated women. Some of them genuinely did not like women. I genuinely feel like that they hated women. I feel like at the end of Before I Let Go is very much more comparable to Waiting to Exhale, because everybody grown. Everybody had exited a relationship. They didn't enter it the same way. Like the ending for the girls was not the same ending for the boys, right? Like Shelly and Corey got back together. Brandon Dean never got back together. You know what I'm saying? Like Brayden, he didn't really have a happy ending because that's not going to end well. But he had somebody. Robin didn't have nobody but a baby. What you call is on the run. None of the girls were on the run, but all of them had grown and shown some type of development. I think that was probably my favorite part, is the development. Also, we saw the men actually hurt. This book is not all about the men hurting the women, the men cheating, the men doing X, Y, and Z. Even while they're cheating or doing wrong, their feelings still get hurt. All of these men have cried, had some type of pain, something happened to them, all of these men. And Nate got it just the worst in the end, to be honest. He got hit. The difference between Nate and the rest of them is that it happened like this. For them, for Brayden, it was like boom, 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 hard. But for Nate, it was like, nah, bro, you lost both of your women and your backup plan, and you can't even be in DC no more. Like it's a whole different thing. And I definitely feel like, and I said this before, and I think maybe that's why I'll probably move this up to a 4. This book is definitely the closest to a male equivalent of Waiting to Exhale. I've read Lovers and Friends. I've read some other books by men. I read Men Crying in the Dark and all that. No. This is hands down, I would say, the closest and the best. And I was actually very worried about that. I think because he wasn't attempting to be Waiting to Exhale, I think that's why he did so good at it. Just by how he dealt with Nate's character, you can tell the representation that he wanted Black men to have. Just by how he dealt with Corey on that plane, when Corey talked to that little boy, and having Corey have that realization in the book, you can tell how he feels about women and what he thinks about how a man should be. By how you hear about how Brayden, who was supposed to be the good guy, how he talks and treated women for the most part, you can tell the type of man I feel like that wrote this book. You know what I'm saying? It's a book that is probably relatable to both genders. You know what I'm saying? To where a woman wouldn't read this book and be like, these are terrible men. But a man wouldn't read this book and be like, oh, I know a woman wrote that. Women always have this experience. We always say, it's like you could tell when a woman's written by a man. You could always tell when a woman's written by a man or when a man designed a woman or something. I feel like with this book, you get the experience of, no, these are men that I've seen, I've known, but from both sides. And I feel like that's why I really actually like this book. I like the writing. I like that nothing happened the way stereotypically. This book did not end how a lot of books stereotypically end. They did not end in a way you wouldn't have guessed this. You wouldn't have guessed that it would end the way that it started. I don't think, and then end the way that it ended either. At least I didn't. I think it's a good book standalone, to be honest. Regardless if it was compared to Waiting to Exhale or not, it's simply just a good book. It has good drama for me. It has good lessons for me. It has good writing for me. I enjoy. Is it dated a little bit? Yes. Can you tell it's a little bit dated? Yes. But all in all, I have more things I like about it than things that I hate about it.
As far as I'm feeling, when it comes to this book and Waiting to Exhale, it's like you said, it wasn't trying to be Waiting to Exhale for Men. It was its own thing. And people was just like, oh, this is like Waiting to Exhale for Men. There's really not like a comparison, like a one-to-one comparison of like, oh, this character is this character, this is this situation. Like, no, it's not like that at all. I like this book. I enjoyed this book. And I gave this book a 4, but I also gave Waiting to Exhale a 4, but they are not on the same level, like 4 wise. Like, it's like how you explain how you were trying to figure out if Before I Let Go was like a low 3 or a high 3. Before I Let Go is very much a low 4 from me. Waiting to Exhale is a high 4. Like, honestly, looking back on it, I probably should have gave it a 5. But it's very, very much a high 4. Like, I would say it's probably like 4.9. Whereas Before I Let Go is like 4.1. Like, they're not the same type of 4. So, as it relates to it being a like male equivalent of Waiting to Exhale, it's like you said, it's the best one we've read up to this point. And like I said earlier, I'm not searching for no more. This is it. This is the last one. I'm the quest is over, it's done with.
I don't see it getting better than this.
I don't see it getting better than this, but also, and this is gonna like segue into what I actually want to talk about, which is what I noticed between Before I Let Go and Men Cry in the Dark, because that's what I really want to talk about. Because, like I said, we already talked about everything we could talk about with this book, Waiting to Exhale and Men Cry in the Dark. It would just be the same talking points. Because this book and Men Cry in the Dark, they have similar issues that I saw in the story. Waiting to Exhale, like you said, it's about a sisterhood. And romance is like, it's a part of their story, but it's not their total story. Whereas in both of these books, more so Men Cry in the Dark than Before I Let Go. Like we said in the last one, the men in Men Cry in the Dark, we didn't really know what they had going on outside of their romances because their romances were the story. And when they did have stuff going on, it didn't bring nothing. Granted, Before I Let Go, they had stuff going on, but it wasn't as focused on as it could have been. Waiting to Exhale is like very woman centric. The emotions that they feel and what they're going through, it's very central to the book. Whereas these two books, they're not as emotional. And that's why I'm like, this quest is not going to work. Because let's just tell the truth. From a societal point of view, women are seen as the more emotional gender than men. Granted, both genders express their emotions very equally. But the difference is how does society see what is acceptable to express. It's more acceptable for a woman to be more emotional. It's not as acceptable for a man to be as emotional. No matter how much people argue that men should be, and granted, they should be. I'm not one of the people that's like, oh, men shouldn't show their emotion. No, I'm not one of the people at all. You should show your emotion. You should be allowed to express your emotions in a way that's healthy. From a societal point of view, and especially in the black community, a man that shows too much emotion is not respected. Any book that's claiming to be a male Waiting to Exhale is never going to hit that mark because Waiting to Exhale is an emotional book. The men are never going to be as emotional because you want to see them as men and you want to respect them as men.
I agree. I think Brayden was the closest that we got. I think that's why Nate's part was so disappointing for me because maybe to men, that was a lot of emotion. Like I needed a good burning. I needed a good cry. I needed it to be more. It wasn't as impactful, but that's why I think of how it is a male equivalent because I think a man reading that part might take it a lot differently than me. Reading Nate's part is like whatever to me, right? But I think if a woman wrote it and it was from a woman's perspective, it would have been different. And the way I felt about it would be different as well. I think he represented what would happen in real life really well too, of like being repulsed while also being fighting, being attracted. And I think that's something that a lot of the men, and a lot of their turmoil is being a man and their desires with also being smart or being what they feel or actually being logical. Like a lot of Brayden's issue was not even necessarily, oh, I'm a good guy or I get bad people. It was Brayden fighting what I know that these women are like and what I should be doing with what I kind of like these women. Same with what you call it. It's like having these emotions and going back to Kim with like, I like Kim. She shouldn't be treated like this, but also these desires, I feel more. I think it just wasn't as serious for us with Corey because it was like, bro, this is a married, like Corey was going through it for the littlest of things. I feel like that's why it was harder for it to be because Corey was going through it. He was having all these emotions. And I'm like, but you didn't even apply to the same school as the girl. And what was y'all gonna do? Like, why are you mad? Because she don't want to go long distance with you when you the one moving? Like, that broke your heart? Or like with Paula, oh my God, the married woman got back with her husband. Like, what do you want us to feel for you? When you yourself even pointed out that she's married, you yourself point out you dating other people. Like, and you know what I want to really be honest too and say? I think that it's very hard for a lot of writers to recreate that Bernie scene. It's really hard to create to start with that out the gate. And that's me being honest of even if I was looking at a woman's video or a woman's book, I don't think I've ever read a woman's equivalent that I could really just be like, oh yeah, this was Waiting to Exhale. It just don't. She did something so perfect. I feel like this is the closest thing we're gonna get. I think it's really difficult to do, especially for a man's book. I think this was good, but I get the critique of it not having as much of the man's life. Let's really get on why I said this did what Man Crying in the Dark wanted to do. This, we actually did get emotion. We didn't get as much emotion as we would have might have got from like a woman's writer or something like that, but we actually did get emotions. People's feelings were hurt. People actually cried. People actually loved. We got all of the characters, which is really big. We didn't get introduced to characters all late in the story. The caliber of men in this story also was very different. When Men Cry in the Dark, all of them had money and had jobs, but in a different way. I see podcast dudes when I read Men Cry in the Dark. With this, I see three fly brothers. I actually do. I see three fly brothers. I don't see crusty dusties. I don't see men that women will run away from. And that's probably why nobody in Man Cry in the Dark were playboys, really, because none of them have playboy vibes. None of them have, I can get all the women in the world. Versus Nate actually has that vibe. You actually see how he could do it and what he did.
You want to know what's crazy?
What?
Derek was supposed to be the playboy. That was supposed to be him.
You see the man right here? Well, this man, he should have went to this man right here class. And maybe he would have learned something, okay? Because no, you were not it. You don't have the game for it. He did a very good balance of lovable, hateful people. Like, you don't like them, but you see who they are as a person. All of those men can have conversations with women. All of those men can walk in the room and still be seen as a man. Not like, oh, this is a man written by a woman. Oh, this is a dream guy. None of these are really dream dudes. These are regular, everyday dudes that you can walk into the room, you could see a woman finding attractive, a woman talking to. Other than Tony, I don't see that for none of them. Y'all not even looking for the type of women. Y'all friendship, what do y'all even do? Like, they be going hooping. They might go party, but at least they go party and they talk. We catch them on the phone together. What did the other guys do together? Did you see her with any bridesmaids? No. You know why she didn't see her with no bridesmaids? Because them girls don't know each other. You see how India had friends outside of just that? You see how Trina and Kim happened to be friends? Erica had a cousin named Jay. Like, they have other people in it. You see how that works, where it's actual family trees and dynamics and friend groups? Because the characters, you know something? I'm getting to the writer side of it, even though I'm not a writer, but I'm getting to it. Characters are not just characters. They are people. They have a mom, they have a dad, they have a best friend, or they don't. They are orphan, though, if they don't. If they don't have mom and dad, they are actual orphan. If they don't have friends, they just lame. You get what I'm saying? If they don't have a boyfriend, they just don't have a boyfriend or something like that. But they have people around. They have brothers, sisters, or they are only child if they don't have brothers and sisters. But they are people. They have emotions. They have feelings. who their mom is, who their dad is, does affect who they are. Oh, they act like this because their brother always treated them like this. Characters are people, they have a universe. And if in your book, you aren't creating a universe, if in your book, if your character doesn't have a universe around them, it makes them one dimensional. It creates so many plot holes because so many things can also be explained by those connections. Like we know Nate acts the way that Nate acts because, oh, his grandma raised him and his uncle, the only other male influence, did this and this. You get what I'm saying? Oh, we know why Corey acts like this because his ex-girlfriend. Oh, we know why he likes Nina. Why is he attracted to Nina? Oh, because Nina looks like her sister. It can feel different parts that we don't really know, that we didn't really get. You get what I'm saying? Like having the character that has that, the basketball player, with Nate knowing everybody, it's like, oh, why would some random dude just come up to their table and be like, oh, da da, and why would we believe him? But if it's somebody that Nate knows, it's a random basketball player, but at least Nate knows him or something, that makes it more real. Even with Nate and all his connections, oh, Nate is this type of person. You know why Nate is probably also this type of person? Nate is a playboy. That's his behavior. So of course, if he a playboy, he from the hood, he don't got no grandma. It makes sense of him having the hookup and knowing everybody. He gives those type of vibes. And I feel like I hate that I gotta get on him like that. So I'm gonna try not to get on him and I'm gonna try to praise the book more. But I think where Before I Let Go really does better is at that. It's at creating a universe around the characters. It's making them actual people. Throughout the story, whether you like it or not, you know why the people are how they are. You know why they do what they do. Braden, like I could see, you know how I said at this point I didn't like Braden? Okay, because I knew where the road was gonna go. It wasn't nothing. And I think that that's the difference also with writing that I like about his writing, that I liked about Waiting to Exhale. What I like about good writers too is the twist shouldn't be so much of a twist that you pulled it out of thin air. Because then it's just made up. It's not, even though everything is made up, it's not an actual twist. If the twist came out of thin air, you just wrote something. You didn't make a story. But if you can look back in the story, how you said, and you see these little nuggets, you see the foreshadowing, and your brain can put together how all of this happened, like I know how Kim ended up. You get what I'm saying? And I know how she got there because all the games he was playing. I know how certain people got to different places. And it's not just because you know what else? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for Kim just to off herself if he was just a serial cheater. But getting the news that you already might be dying because of ovarian cancer, okay, that makes it more believable that you're in a certain type of state. You get what I'm saying? Like, to be honest, very progressive for the time. I think it was very progressive with just the ideas that was inside of it. I've only read two books like this, Between Lovers and this book. It's one of the few books too that I even see, and you can see in the book of where it's that contrast of a man actually not enjoying it. You know what I'm saying? Of that breaking up their relationship. I definitely feel like this was Men Cry in the Dark. This is what it should have been.
Now, when it comes to Before I Let Go and Men Cry in the Dark, I said Before I Let Go had better characters and it had more interesting writing. But what I did say was like Men Cry in the Dark, it had like better technical writing, if that makes sense. Like
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Before I Let Go, it was fun to read that book. It was interesting to read. You wanted to read it. Whereas Men Cry in the Dark, it felt like you fighting your way through. Like you like, how much more is this? But when you look at like how they're actually written, Men Cry in the Dark did have better technical writing. Like technically it was better and more cohesive.
Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying because Before I Let Go is very messy.
At least Men Cry in the Dark stayed in the same perspective. When I say this, there was never any confusion of who was talking, but part of it, the reason why is because there was only one person talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because it was one person. I think for me, I didn't really have. I think because the boys were so different, I was rarely confused on who was talking.
Yeah, it wasn't confusing in this book, but
I like the way he did it more than the itch, but he would throw the other women's perspective in there. I feel like, is that what you're talking about? Because he would throw other people's perspective. He would sprinkle it in, which I thought I like it because I feel like it added other layers to the story.
like I don't really know how I can explain it. It's just like it was like technically better written.
think it's because you gotta know the rules to break them, you know? And I feel like he was kind of following bar for bar, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like, of course, technically we needed to make sure we had this, the climax of this, make sure we have these in certain places. I feel like it was checking the boxes, if you get what I'm saying. Like, it's almost like you might have two singers. One, people might be like, okay, sing because they're more technical, but they not selling records because this one is entertaining to hear. Even if she don't, and I mean, and when I'm saying this too, it's not like, oh, entertaining where, oh, I'm dancing, I'm doing all this. No, I'm saying sitting down, listening to this person record. This person, you have the people who can sing technically, but they just boring. They sound like whatever. You got the people that may not be the most technical, but to the regular ear, they can sing and you like what they're doing. And then you have the other people, which is Waiting to Exhale, who have both, who can sing or whatever. I don't know if Waiting to Exhale has what you call it. I'm just saying with the caliber of books that I feel like.
So basically, Effie and Dina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, to take it further, Waiting to Exhale is Effie.
Mm-hmm.
Being Cry in the Dark is Dina.
Mm-hmm.
And Before I Let Go is L'Oreal.
Exactly. Exactly. You could do, L'Oreal, she was in there, she was doing everything. She was here, there. She had her own little drama going on too. She was interesting. We love her. Man Grind Dark got a lot of accolades that I don't know if they deserve.
Men Cry in the Dark and Before I Let Go, like I already touched on, they never going to be on exactly on Waiting to Exhale's level. Men Cry in the Dark, in fact, is never coming nowhere near that. Like,
Man Grind Dark has a really good structure. And I feel like on paper, I I could see Man Cry in the Dark being a better book than Before I Let Go. I could see it being a better book. The main reason that it's not is just the execution. It's just how it was executed. Because the story, like when you look at each person, even when you how we talking about building a universe, when you put each person on a paper and you're drafting it up, it's like, okay, I could see this working. I could see this going back and forth. I could see this person. I could see them this way. But I just feel like that's the difference between a more experienced writer. I would actually, you know what, I'm not gonna lie, I would actually love to read one of his later books. Since this was his first fiction book, I would love to read one of his later books and compare it. You know how we did like Waiting to Exhale and How Stella Got Her Groove Back? I would I would love to do something like that to see if maybe he developed as an artist because everybody first book not gonna be good.
and you want to know what's crazy?
Hmm.
A lot of Darren's fans said this wasn't even his best work. Like, they said this was one of his weaker books.
Oh, I definitely would want to read more than.
One of his weaker books, and he's the closest we get to a four. A four. Like I said, there was like some similar issues with the men books. Let's just talk about what they had similar. What they had similar was attractive, well to do for themselves men, black men, that like their main issue is like they just having girl problems. I guess it's just because like the type of writer I am, it's like I need more than that.
I think it's like reading women's books and it being like, when girls are boy crazy. Nobody likes girls that are boy crazy when all you talk about is boys. But in this book, and a lot of men are like that. A lot of men, that's what they do. They get together and talk about girls. I don't feel like they had enough going on. And how you say they will talk about it here and there, but you really like, I don't even know what Nate does.
It's never said what he does. He just got money.
I don't know what Nate does. I know that Corey has a job, and Corey's job comes up. Actually, Corey's job comes up every so often. Like it comes up quite a bit. Not too many problems, but it comes up. What you call a job only comes up for lies or when he trying to get off the phone. I gotta work. But I will say that a lot the guys didn't really have lives. I agree. I don't want to say it's more of a romance because to me, you definitely can see more of the brotherhood in this book. There's definitely a certain type of brotherhood I feel like in this book than Men Cry in the Dark. But I understand the critique.
This book had a more realistic brotherhood and like you truly believe these dudes have been friends forever. Men Cry in the Dark, the only thing realistic about their friendship and their brotherhood is that they all weren't like the same equal level of friends. Like each one had their preferred who they hang out with. That was the only thing realistic about their friendship. Like other than that, it was not believable that they had been friends forever because I don't want to say they didn't act like it, but it just like the story just didn't support it.
I think with this, I could see these four type of people being friends. I don't know if I could see the other four type of people being friends. And even when they would talk, like it's the stuff that you talk about. These three be talking about stuff that has to do with, their friendship. I don't know. And I get you. I get you. Let me just say, I get you.
Then there was like the portrayal of the women in both books. I'm gonna take what you said about waiting to exhale.
These characters are not perfect, but likable because they're human. We understand they're well-rounded. Even the men in this story, the men in these stories do not matter. But we know enough about Troy to make it make sense.
I said this when I was doing like my individual reaction to the book. I said that Before I Let Go, it had a whole bunch of unnecessary relationships. Those women, a lot of them didn't matter to the story. They didn't bring nothing. I was like, why not just focus on the women that we know are going to bring something? Like, I said that the Waiting to Exhale men, even though those relationships didn't matter, the women always learned something from those relationships that they could use for themselves. They took something from it. The men, they didn't take nothing from their relationships. They got nothing from it. And so that's something I did kind of, very small. Wanted to give Men Cry in the Dark. It didn't have a whole bunch of unnecessarily relationships, but that's really only because the relationships in that book were stale.
Come on, because the Playboy wasn't really a player.
They were underdeveloped. That's better.
The relationships and Men Cry in the Dark, definitely. Of course, I like the relationships and Before I Let Go better. Before I Let Go it's just messy. It's just a really good messy book. I don't think I ever got, because I didn't care, baby. If I don't care about a character, I can't remember half them characters, baby. They went in one ear and out the other. I think it matched more the person, if that makes sense. I think when Men Cry in the Dark, there were less relationships, and it kind of matched, the relationships kind of matched what the people were talking about. I think Before I Let Go, and I think that's purposefully. I think he did do it purposefully. But I think that's why I don't like Corey, is that the relationships, the number of relationships and how many women came in and out of this book do not match the type of men that these people saying that they are.
Before I Let Go is like that little brother. Like it got two older siblings, the older sister and the older brother. The older sister, she the star of the family. Like you're not touching her. But like, it's like that younger brother that's like more talented than their older brother, but they don't wanna outshine their older brother. So they kind of like, because they still like their older brother, they still respect him. So they do better, but they low key about it, not trying to do too much. And I think that's the best way I can describe these books, because neither one of them touched Waiting to Exhale. Like, let's just tell the truth. But Before I Let Go, it came a lot closer than Men Cry in the Dark did. But what I do like and appreciate about both books is that they did, like we said with Men Cry in the Dark, Men Cry in the Dark had a goal. It was to get more black men to read. It was to tell a story about black men from a black man's perspective. It was just a sloppy execution. But it had a goal. It was to get more black men to read. And Before I Let Go, it kind of came with like a similar goal. Like, let's tell a story about black men from a black man's perspective. It had more variety. It had more to offer. And also the author just had a little bit more experience. Let's just tell the truth.
I would say I agree. I think that Men Cry in the Dark, especially from the time that it was written, it did something. It's like you don't know how many writers it might have inspired to say, oh, this what y'all calling the male version of Wait to Exhale? I got you. Wait till you read my book. Let me go ahead and fill in these little holes. You don't know how much it might have inspired. And it was obviously, especially with how much praise that it gets, it obviously had to be something at the time. You know, we talk about this with perfumes, but there's like, you know, older perfumes like Chanel No. 5, right? Chanel No. 5 at the time was revolutionary. It was what people sometimes said was a sweet fragrance. Like, it was really revolutionary for the time being.
Mind you, that mess stank. It stinks. And it stinks.
As time has gone on, we've gotten better ingredients, right? We've gotten better perfumers. We've gotten better bottles. We have more fragrances now, different fragrance notes. So as time has gone on, what was beautiful in the 50s and whenever it came out and was very elegant for older people at that time is not what the elegant women now are wearing. It's still a derivative of it, and it was great for that time. And that's how I look at maybe Men Cry in the Dark. When you're the first, we got to start somewhere. And if Men Cry in the Dark is where we had to start to get to Before I Let Go, I'm cool with it. Sometimes that's what happens. Because honestly, they really don't be publishing us like that. You don't know how many other men he might have encouraged to, oh, if Michael can do it and he can publish his own book, then I definitely can publish my own book. Or how much it was maybe like, oh, well, you know, this book is making X, Y, and Z amount of money. Maybe we actually should look into Black men and sign them and things like that. So as much as I dislike the book, it's like what you said. What it did overall is what it was supposed to do. So that it doesn't get any extra points from me, but I'm okay with buying it from that alone. This is a great book. I definitely feel like how you said with Dreamgirls. That's how I would describe it. I definitely would describe it as Dreamgirls. Like, definitely Effie, like heavy hitter, got it all. This one's versatile, good. Laurel could still sing, but you know, she wasn't a star like Effie. Men Cry in the Dark, for some reason, was a star. I don't know why, but you gotta have some type of talent or something there for people to enjoy it. So it's something there that people enjoy. And that's how I will be ranking these.
That's all I got to say on it. Got anything else to say on it?
I already said everything I had to say. Everything I had to say, I didn't say about it. Great, solid book. It's great, solid book alone. It does not actually, I know this probably sold it, but it does not actually need the Waiting to Exhale tagline to sell me, to be honest. If this book had no attachment to Waiting to Exhale, I would still say it was a great book.
I would have picked it on the cover alone. That's an amazing cover.
Mm-hmm.
That is all we have to say on this topic. Like I told y'all, that's the end of the quest. I'm not searching for no more male equivalents. Now, if Tati want to search for more, she's more than welcome. I ain't doing it no more. But with that being said, thank you for tuning into this video. If you liked it, please like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to my channel. Go subscribe to Tati's channel. It's spelled Tatesomne. If you have an issue with it, take it up with Tati, not me, because Tati's the one that did it. I used to blame her mama, but no, it was Tati's fault. She did it. So go blame her. And with that being said, thank y'all for tuning in. Be sure to also check out my books, because if I don't mention it, Tati gonna be mad. Go check them out. Go get caught up. Y'all saw how we just talked very amazingly about this wonderful book about Black men just living their regular old Black lives. You can get that with my books too. Go check it out. It's amazing. Tati will vouch for me. She's read them. She knows. And she'll tell you if it's a mess or not.
Baby, they are good. Yeah, I would tell y'all. If it wasn't a 5 out of 5, I wouldn't give it a 5 out of 5. They really be really good.
I mean, y'all see how she gave poor Michael a 0, so.
So y'all know, I'm not... Even I just told y'all all about what he did for the culture, but what I told y'all, I'm still not moving from that 0. I understand what he did for the culture, and that was great, and that's cool. No.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to check us out next time. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.